welcome to another great edition. No. This is a fantastic edition of Mississippi Stories. I'm your host, Marshall Ramsey. I'm editor-at-large and editorial cartoonist here at Mississippi Today. Oh, you want to check out more of Mississippi Today? I got the answer for you. It's MississippiToday.org. You can see all of our great coverage and also see past episodes of Mississippi Stories as well. The guy next to me, well, if you're in the Jackson area, probably I don't even need to introduce him, but I'm going to because that would be really lazy on my part. Patrick Ellis has been for what, 6-7 years?
6.5 years.
6.5 years. Okay, well, 6, 7. I was close.
Yeah.
I never was good at math. That's why I draw pictures. He literally was the morning guy that you would see every morning when you turned on the TV. And I don't know how you do it, to be honest with you, because you like right now it's probably about 1:30 in the afternoon, which is the equivalent of midnight for you.
I'm dying on the inside.
Yeah,
it's fine though. I'm hang out with you.
Yeah, you're caffeinated. You're good.
We'll say I'm caffeinated.
Yeah, you're also much sharper dressed than I am. So yeah.
Oh no, I this is literally what I wore to work today.
He gets a closed budget, so.
I wish we did. Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. Back in like pre-2008 days, I guess.
Yeah. Well, part of the reason I wanted to interview is you're out here, you're heading out the door. So everybody, if you're enjoying this, he's gone.
I'm out the door.
But you're not going far.
No, not at all.
Which is really the story of your career, except for a couple moves. You've kind of been in the Mississippi area. You're going to go to the other capital of Mississippi. You're going to Memphis.
Yes, just up the road. You know, that's the thing that is so lovely about all of this is that you're right. I have kind of like hodgepodged my way around Mississippi in some way or fashion. I lived in Starkville for 4 years, went to the state, worked in Greenville, then moved to North Carolina for 4 years.
Another
Greenville. Yeah. Went to Wilmington and then came back to Jackson. But I've been really in Mississippi the vast majority of my adult life, and that's weird to me to even think about that.
I know. I mean, well, when you were at state, you were working with like Weather Nation and doing
I was working with Weather Vision.
Weather Vision. Yeah. I got the wrong second word. Weather Nation. I apologize, but you should have hired them.
I know plenty of people who worked at work with Weather
as long
Nation.
as you didn't say landmass, you were in good
shape.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
And I'm almost certain I'm not allowed to even utter that word anymore.
I think that's probably a kiss of death for any meteorologist at this point.
Yeah. But they still love Jim Cantori after all that.
I don't even think did they really say that though? Was it with their channel?
Yeah, that was on the Weather Channel. That landmass between New Orleans and Mobile.
Okay, because I'd heard some people saying it wasn't. It was something else.
Oh no, that was the thing that was said.
Okay. Now my whole train of thought. No, just kidding. No, but I mean, like I said, when you were in college, you were getting in the reps and getting the work done at that point. What made you want to become a meteorologist?
Fear of thunderstorms.
Really?
Yeah. So when I was younger, I was deathly afraid of thunderstorms, and I still kind of am. I don't put it on television because I know that there are other people.
So it's bad if you panic while you're on TV?
Probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
Especially when you have tornadoes and such happening. And we get our fair share.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen.
Oh, we're right in the bullseye of Dixie Alley.
Basically.
So, yeah.
But it was a fear of thunderstorms, and it took until I was probably about 10 or 11. My dad was a tugboat captain.
Really?
So every summer I would go with him on a trip.
Mm-hmm.
So one summer we were going from Norfolk, Virginia down to Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh wow.
So we're going around Cape Hatteras, and there was a tropical depression off the coastline, and I was not really ready for that type of thing. It wasn't crazy or anything, but he kept it, safe guy.
Yeah.
It's like, it's my dad, it's fine. But it took until like one night there was thunderstorms off in the distance, and I think it was more so the lightning.
Yeah.
More so than anything else that kind of scared me about thunderstorms. So one night I like cowered down in the galley, and he calls me up. He says, "Hey, come upstairs." He shows me the radar. He shows like that's thunderstorm's like 40 miles away, and I thought that was fascinating. I could see that lightning from so far away. So I just sat up there. It was like fireworks, and I finally kind of got over that fear.
Mm-hmm.
But it took some time, and then I wanted to learn more about that.
Yeah.
I've always kind of had a love for weather, and it was more so at that point where I realized, like, okay, what does make this tick?
Right.
And so I finally decided, okay, I want to go to college for it, and ended up coming to Mississippi.
There's a couple of different tracks you can take. You can go like work for the National Weather Service.
Yeah.
You can be one of the behind the scenes meteorologists. You can do that. Or you can do the television route. Of course, Mississippi State has a fantastic broadcast meteorology department.
Yes,
They really do.
About 2/3 of all broadcasters that you will see on television in the United States went through the Mississippi State program in one way or fashion.
And there's also a whole lot of math involved with meteorology.
Yeah, I'm not great at math.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about that.
I am not great at math at all. But somehow I was able to persevere through the math courses of Mississippi State and get my degree, and super happy. I remember there was one day I was doing summer school. I had gone home. My mom was sitting there, and she goes, "Did you pass Cal 2?" I was like, "I don't know. I really don't know." When I got a C in Cal 2, I was the happiest person. You would have thought I had an A+.
Yeah, C's for congratulations.
I was like, oh yes, it's like C's get degrees, right? That is that D's get degrees. Anyways, the fact of the matter is that I am not great at math, but I was still able to take that information and apply it. Now I don't use calculus every single day, but at the same time, it's still part of what we do.
Well, yeah, right.
Yeah. Which
it's totally fascinating, and I think about, and I was the same way as you. I was completely terrorized. I think it started with the Wizard of Oz. I mean, forget the flying monkeys and the witch.
Yeah.
The tornado is what got me.
Yeah.
And it was,
Right at the beginning.
It was a sock. It was literally a sock, and it was terrifying. And so, but I grew up in Atlanta, so we had a ton of tornadoes there, back in the '70s, and not as much now. But it was like one of those things. But I never got into weather because I couldn't do the math.
Yeah.
So that's why I have envy.
I tell people when I go to schools, I say, look, I'm not good at math, but I was able to finish my math courses. It took a lot of preparation and a lot of, you got to sit down and you got to hunker down and do this. Because if you have a passion for it, you're going to do it no matter what. And that's what I ultimately had to find inside myself, that is the passion. And trust me, it's been running on passion for the last 11 years of my life.
Passion and performance too. So you have to be able to get up and, you've got like a 5-minute segment or whatever, and you've got to basically, you don't have a teleprompter, you're doing it right off the top of your head. And that's not easy. And you got to do it in a way to be relatable to the people who are watching.
Yes.
Which I think, to your credit, you've done really well.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I think living here for most of my life.
Right. You know where the landmarks are.
Yes.
You don't say, hey, there's a tornado coming near Booty.
Yes.
Which, Bude, which is not pronounced Booty.
So I remember when I first moved here, I remember hearing James Spann, who's a meteorologist in Alabama.
Who absolutely does the job, because he does public relations very well.
Yes.
He's on the road a lot.
Yes, literally, he goes to schools every single day.
Yeah.
But he came to Mississippi State. We had a symposium every single year. He came there and talked about making sure that you know the area that you're going into. So I took that to heart, and every place that I've ever gone, I've gotten in my car, take like whatever my weekend was, when I was working weekends, it'd be like Monday, Tuesday. I just go drive around and I go find the weirdest places in Mississippi. I'd say, okay, here's my end point. I want to go to Hot Coffee today.
Yeah.
Okay. So, along that trip to Hot Coffee, all right, let's figure out what's along that trek. All right, so I'm gonna go down Highway 35. I'm gonna end up, down 37. I'm gonna go this way, go through Taylorsville, go through, Center Ridge, and down through Smith County and Simpson County, and go find all these little small towns and find at least one little landmark near one of the major intersections, and remember that. I think that's kind of the secret sauce to being relatable to people, because nobody knows exactly where this location is in every mindset. But if you can relate to one person who is in that moment dealing with a storm, they're like, I know exactly where that is. I need to get to my place of safety.
Yeah, and if you've been, for instance, if you're sitting there watching the tornado come into Rolling Fork, you said it's coming toward Chuck's Dairy Barn.
Yeah.
Everybody in Rolling Fork
would know that.
exactly where that was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That going to Rolling Fork,
Which, by the way, I went right. I was there 3 days before that, speaking at the library.
Really?
Yeah, and there were like 50 people in the room, and I'm just thinking, what happened to everybody? Because I'm, going back, I went right back after, and it reminded me of Katrina. I've never seen damage quite like that.
It reminded me a lot of April 27, 2011.
Yeah.
For a lot of people who you know, I mean, obviously this goes across the entire state of Mississippi and beyond. You know, that day reminded me from March 24th. That day reminded me so much of April 27, 2011, when I went out there to Rolling Fork. About a week later, I had so much going on that week, and this is whenever I was finding out that I was going to go to Memphis too. So I was like, I went and interviewed in Memphis after I had volunteered in Rolling Fork, and people were like, "We love you," and I'm like, "Thank you, I appreciate you."
But you're not going to love me for much longer.
it's like as soon as I tell you what's about to happen, like I literally drove up there that day, and they commended me when I went up to Memphis, because I ended up staying. My interview day was the day of the Covington tornado, EF3 tornado that went through there. So in the background of WMC's coverage, you hear this voice talking about tornado coming across the Mississippi River. It was me. Yeah. So I was trying to solidify my point of being there. It's like, I got this.
Which, by the way, there's always been this myth that tornadoes don't cross rivers.
Oh, they do.
They do.
Yes, they do. Very much so. I saw it on that day.
Yeah.
Not once, but like I think twice.
That was a really big tornado too.
That was a huge tornado. That was the one that went through Wynne, Arkansas, Covington, and dropped at one point, had 2 tornadoes on the ground. That storm had 2 tornadoes on the ground at the same time. And then further south,
there's one near Hernando too.
Yes, another storm came across. It went across at Tunica, and then hopscotched and eventually dropped just on the west side of Hernando. Yeah. So I learned very quickly where some landmarks were up there. And yesterday I had to go up there. I was driving back and I said, you know what, let me take the road less traveled. So I hopped off 55 and I drive down Highway 61. I get down to Clarksdale and I said, all right, let me cross over at Highway 6, go through Marks and went through Batesville. That's the first time I ever went through the city of Batesville. Yeah. You know, as many times as we went up to Memphis. Yeah. You just never get off the interstate unless you're going to Oxford.
To stop, get gas, exactly.
It's like, get gas or go to Oxford. And let's be honest with ourselves, I'm a state fan. How many times have I gone to Oxford?
None.
3, but you know.
Okay, so you've been to the exit.
2 of them were with the band. So that it's like, that was a force.
Wait a minute, back up. Were you in the band?
I was in the band at state.
Okay. What'd you play?
Played baritone.
No way.
Yeah.
So the marching baritone was kind of like a trumpet.
A very large trumpet, or kind of like a marching.
I decided to play that also.
Oh, awesome. So, see, it's like you're learning more about me.
Well, that's the whole point of this whole venture.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
we're going
like
deep now.
But you know, that's the thing though. I always tell people that you can't understand Mississippi just driving from your house to your office. Yeah. You got to go around. And like I said, you do that, but that's the thing. You got to learn new areas, but you already knew the Delta pretty much. So I bet say, and I totally missed this. You were talking about your dad and growing up and being on the tugboat. Where did you actually grow up?
Mobile.
Mobile?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not even a native Mississippian, but I felt like at this point, you know, I've lived here a long time. I feel like I'm part of the Mississippi family. And the great thing is that when I left to go to North Carolina and came back, I had a family already here, basically, from my time at state. So it was very comforting. And the positive thing that I can say when I go to Memphis, I have the same thing there. I have friends from college, and I have several friends who've moved there over the years from here and gone up there. And, you know, so it's very comforting to go to a place where you already know people. Exactly. Rather than just starting completely fresh. Because when I went to North Carolina, I had nobody.
And yeah, I'm about to say it was kind of a different world.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not the South. I mean, it's the South, but it's a different kind of South.
I will say Eastern North Carolina reminds me a lot of Mississippi, though.
Yeah, that's true.
It just, instead of chicken farms, you have tobacco farms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and pig farms.
Yeah.
Lots of pig farms.
But you get a lot. You do get tornadoes, and you do get the same kind of weather, too.
Oh, yeah. Hurricanes included. My last major event that I dealt with in Eastern North Carolina when I was in Wilmington was Hurricane Matthew. It was October 2016. And still fresh on the memory. For some reason, it's like that storm just, because I think it was the last one that I covered, was very fresh on my mind. It was a Category 1, but it had one of the highest flooding events that Wilmington had ever seen. Yeah. And then further inland, I think we had 26 people die from inland flooding. Yeah. And that's another thing that we're in hurricane preparedness week this week.
That's right.
And I said, you gotta remember inland hazards. We dealt with that the whole year 2020. Remember Laura, Beta, Zeta, Delta, like all those hurricanes that came through here. We get impacts like that too here. So we're not out of the woods. People Katrina.
I'm about to say,
2005.
and I can tell you that morning, I remember going in because it'd been really dry, and I kept thinking, good, I'm going to get a little bit of rain on the grass. I don't think we got any rain on the grass because it was blowing sideways for 12 hours, and we had hurricane force winds for 12 hours in the Jackson area. And so there were a lot of tree damage and stuff. I remember driving home from downtown up to my house then in Madison. It took 2.5 hours.
Wow.
It was crazy. So yes, when you're on the air, we're coming up. I've got about 5 more minutes, but when we're on the air, when you're in the air and you see a tornado like what's going toward Rolling Fork, and you know that people's lives are in peril, that has to be a very sobering moment for you because you're and I say this because I know several of the meteorologists in town. I've never disliked a meteorologist in this town for some reason.
We're not bad people.
No, you're you're decent human beings. So I just want to put that out there. But no, that's got to be a very sobering moment, and I've heard Span talk about that before, because once again, when the tornado outbreak that hit Alabama so hard, and I was on the air that day on the radio show, and we were calling tornado warnings every 5 minutes on that day, and it's very sobering because you know that people are probably losing their lives while you're sitting there trying to get them to safety.
And I wasn't even at the station when the original warning went out, but I texted Peyton Garrison. I said we were on a warning that went through Rankin County.
Yeah.
And I said, before you go off the air, you and Dave need to talk about that storm that's over near Winsboro, Louisiana. And they did, and it ultimately ended up being the storm that became the Rolling Fork tornado. It didn't look like anything on the radar.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, 15 minutes before that storm put down an EF4 tornado, it did not look like anything.
Wow.
When I say that storm blew up, it was almost instantaneously.
It was literally like all the storm energy poured into that one supercell.
There was the only one.
Yeah.
It was the only one. And I remember that day I said, it's not a certainty that we will see storms, but if we do see storms, they will be few and mighty.
Yeah.
And of course, we saw the mighty, unfortunately.
It was just like when the one that hit Yazoo City a few years ago.
Yeah, 2010?
Yeah, 2010.
Yeah. It's like a Rolodex of storms.
Yeah.
That storm, few and mighty. I remember that day very vividly. I was at the state at that point, and remember it went all the way basically to Oktibbeha County.
Yeah.
On the ground for 149 miles, I think. EF4 tornado. We see some big storms coming through here, but to your question, it is very sobering. I remember Easter Sunday 2020.
Yeah.
And we had gotten a bulletin from the SPC, the Storm Prediction Center.
So-so tornado.
Yes, and Bassfield. Yeah. And I remember reading it on the air, and I said, this storm could potentially have EF4, EF5 winds, tornado winds in this storm. It hit me very hard because I'm thinking about this because remember, this is April 2020. Leading up to this, I'm having to have conversations not only about a tornado outbreak, but also about how you stay safe with COVID.
Yeah.
I've never had to deal with a public health situation at the very same time that we're dealing with tornadoes.
Yeah, how to be safe in the shelter.
Yes, that was one of the outlines. I had to build a graphic to talk about how to be safe in a shelter if you have to go to a shelter, which still blows my mind to this day. But when I said that, I had to walk off the air. I turn my mic off, walk into the hallway, and take a moment because I realized that EF4, EF5 in our area is not going to end well.
We don't have basements.
We don't have basements. Storm shelters are there, but some are few and far between. Yeah. And in that part of the world, I don't think there are that many, if any.
And there's manufactured homes.
Manufactured homes, and a lot of the folks, unfortunately, that did die that day were in those situations. Yeah. And it's hard to think about that too, but you have to push forward. You have to almost take yourself out of it. Yeah. Because if you don't, then the human aspect of our everyday feelings is going to pour out. Yeah. And you have to be in a sense of calm because at the end of the day, it is going to hurt. I will remember the first time I ever had a loss of life during a tornado event. This was April 2014. It was when I was in North Carolina. And I will never forget it. I won't forget anyone that I've had that situation happen because it is impactful. When I got off the air after Rolling Fork, I went home and I cried. Yeah. Because you have that bottled up energy and eventually it's going to have to come out. and if you don't release it, you're going to lose your mind. And it is tough.
Yeah.
You know, it's sunshine and rainbows 95% of the days here in Mississippi, and hot and humid. But the 5% where we have really active weather and we have those bad storms, it can be very challenging, not just from the standpoint of what people at home see, but also on the people who are having to report that. And it's not just me or the meteorologists on the team, either at my station or any other station or at the weather service. So reporters have to go out there, the anchors, they're going out there firsthand and dealing with that stuff and seeing it, and you're hearing that. When we talked to the mayor of Rolling Fork that night in March, and hearing how he was describing what was going on in his city, the storm is still on the ground. Tornado is on the ground up in Holmes County at this point, or actually I think it was Humphreys County still, so it wasn't that far away. He's walking out of his house that had been hit by a tornado and telling us what he's seeing at that point. You think that I was not standing there like, oh my goodness? And you're hearing the sirens in the background, and you're hearing these things happening in live action, and trying to get that information and making sure that you're getting right information, because people are going to try to help as soon as possible, because that's what we do in Mississippi.
Yeah, and it's tough in a small town too, because when you think of the police, they were responding and literally they were finding their friends and neighbors and people they knew passed away.
Hurt, injured, and passed away. You know, that's the other thing. You know, and you can get emotionally charged in that situation too. The other thing is that when all this is going on, you're getting so much information. And I said, if we're getting information from Rolling Fork, 15, 20 minutes after a tornado just went through there, it's bad.
Yeah.
You know, it's very seldom that we get many reports. When we have big storms coming through there, it's very seldom that we get a report coming out of Rolling Fork or Myersville or Anguilla or Midnight and Louise and Silver City. But when things do happen and you start getting reports quickly, something has happened in a big way, because they have a story that they need to tell, and usually it's, I need help.
Before we wrap up, a couple things. 2 questions. Number one, how do you respond to people that criticize when you break in to coverage and you interrupt their favorite show?
I tell them straight up.
Their stories or whatever. On that. Then the second one is just the funniest moment that you can think of when you've been on the air.
Okay, so number one. So I have been very straightforward with people. Listen, I don't come to your job and tell you how to do your job. So don't come to my job and tell me what to do with my job. But I understand where people are at on that. I totally get it. There's technology that's in the works that will eventually eradicate us blowing out entire viewing areas television. That's down the road though, that's not today. Our job ultimately is to make sure people are safe. And I think that after Rolling Fork, when you see these events, unfortunately, it kind of resets people's brains on, oh, that's why. Then it was funny because it was the next Sunday. We had baseball-sized hail coming through the metro, and the 2x4 gets stuck in the side of our building at the station because we had a straight line wind gust come through downtown at 70 miles an hour. So, you know, you see these things happening, you're like, oh, I now understand life and property.
People usually become concerned when they hear their neighborhood.
It's like, especially that day, because it started going through some pretty populated areas of golf ball, baseball, softball. I heard racquetball size hail.
Racquetball, that's a new one.
That was a new one. Over in Rankin County, you know, Gardens of Manship and over towards
Avalon and some of
some of these big neighborhoods in Rankin County, and you know, windows getting blown out and all sorts of stuff. The second one, so there's been quite a few that have happened over the years. I have 2. The first one is farts and toots, and if Rocky Wilkins is watching this, man, he's we've had laughs over this over the last couple of years, and I thought that he was going to actually beat me up after this, you know, because it went viral, not just here locally, but it went international. When his son Houston comes out in the midst of my weather forecast, and you know, I just saw, I think Houston's 13, 14 years old now. I mean, like, that's hard to believe too. It's like, man, he's growing up now. He's a teenager. The second one is the ice storm, the Valentine's ice storm. And people will come up to me all the time and say, man, you had me rolling when you told them folks. It's like, listen, you need to get where you need to get. Because if you don't, you won't have to stick with them for about 3, 4, 5 days. You know, I'm just trying to help people out. I know what's going on. You know, it's Valentine's Day. It's like either church or you're doing something else. And some folks may be doing something that they probably don't want everybody to know. And if you're gone for 3 days, see you at the courthouse. You know, I'm just trying to help folks out. You know,
So
that's my job.
So meteorology and life advice.
Yes. Sage advice from meteorologist Patrick Ellis.
So when do you head up to Memphis?
My last day in Jackson is May 24th. First day in Memphis is May 25th.
Okay.
But I will actually be
Enjoy your vacation.
Yeah, my vacation is about the 3-hour trip up there. But I'm actually going to be up there the next 2 weeks helping out because they're down a meteorologist. This is why.
Yeah,
why
I mean,
they're trying to-
you're replacing Brittany Bryant, who'd been there for 8 years.
Yeah.
She's been there for a while, but I mean, she's got a growing family, and she decided that maybe getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning wasn't so smart.
Yeah, and me and Brittany go back.
Yeah.
We went to college together for a while over at State. We have always kind of worked a market away from each other. She worked in Myrtle Beach when I worked in Wilmington, and then obviously Jackson and in Memphis. So, but good friends, and she introduced me on air up there last month, and I don't know, she is Memphis to a T.
Yeah.
From Memphis weather to a T, because her stepdad did weather
Oh, wow.
at ABC 24 for a long time. So, that's another thing that I was like, I can't beat that.
Yeah.
My dad drove tugboats, man. And it's like, I
Yeah,
got
but that's kind of cool, too.
It was cool. I
Yeah.
got a free summer vacation out of this on the ocean, a free cruise.
Yeah, that's a very Mark Twain kind of thing. So you got there on the
I wasn't going down the Mississippi. I was just out there on the intercoastal waterway, just rolling around.
Yeah. Man, I hate to cut this short. I really do, because I really enjoyed it. But I've also enjoyed getting to know you over the years. And I'm going to miss you, of course, but you're just going to be right up the road.
I'll be up the road, y'all can just tune in.
Yeah, so don't be a stranger.
And I always have to come through Jackson to get to my mom's house.
That's a good point.
It's like there's no way that I'm never not going to come to Jackson. So.
The biggest mistake I make, though, is that when I follow meteorologists in this market and then they move and I forget to unfollow them. So I'm sitting there going, tornado warning, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
I can't wait to get it. You're in Indiana.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
So,
Well, no, you can still follow me, Marshall.
Okay.
I got that North Mississippi thing going on.
Yeah.
DeSoto County, I see you.
okay, very good. But that was part of the reason why I wanted to talk to you, because I mean, you're leaving here, so I didn't want to get anybody jealous here in this market. But you're still going to be in Mississippi today. So
And
great.
listen, the team over at WLBT is amazing.
Yeah.
The team that we've been able to assemble over the last couple of years is amazing. Peyton Garrison and Brandon Walker. And our newest meteorologist, Ashley Civic, who's going to be joining us in June. She's going to be doing the weekends for us. Todd Adams, and then our newest meteorologist, I can't tell you who it is just yet, who's going to be replacing me. They're going to do great.
Okay.
And they are going to do great. They are relatively local, so they will have a great time. I do know they went to Mississippi State. I can tell you that, and they are.
Yeah, well,
great.
you've already told me the odds of that's pretty much 8 out of 10. So there you go. So
I can narrow it down a little bit more, but it is. But they will do great here, and you guys will love them.
good deal. Yeah, thank you so much.
Marshall, appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Well, and I hope you enjoyed this edition of Mississippi Stories. And if you'd like to see more, once again, go to MississippiToday.org. And if you really enjoyed it, click on the like button so you can see more interviews all the time. Thank you for watching this episode of Mississippi Stories. Make sure to subscribe to the Mississippi Today YouTube channel and click the bell to be notified every time a new video uploads.